What is going on, fantasy world? This is Bourbon N Ball. We got week 21. We're going to be talking hottest players, coldest players, some really surprising overperformers, and some unsurprising underperformers. You're not going to want to miss this one. And we're also going to be talking playoffs because next week is fantasy playoffs for some leagues. Stay tuned. What's going on, guys? This is Bourbon N Ball. I'm Doug alongside my lifelong friend from Clearwater, Florida, Mikey V over there, coming to you live right now. Let me tell you, we're going to be talking week 21. And of course, week 21 goes hand in hand with next week, which is in a lot of 12-team leagues, the start of the playoffs. So let's hope some of these hot performances can continue. And let's just get right into it, man, because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to unpack. And let's just start. Let's just go right in. Some really unfamiliar faces here on the who's not part. You got White Sox outfielder Tristan Peters. He's only 17% owned. 476, 5 homers, 9 ribbies, 7 runs, 4 strikeouts, a stolen base, 44 points, 7.3 a start because they only played 6 games. And then you got Nationals outfielder DH Dylan Lyle. 60% owned, 429, 3 homers, 9 ribbies, 7 runs, 4 strikeouts, a stolen base, 38 points, or 5.4 a start. And then we have some honorable mentions here. Rafael Devers with 36 points, Ian Happ with 34, Cal Riley with 33 coming up. We got another White Sox. Usually, like we say, they come in bunches. You got Miguel Vargas with 31. And then last but not least, Jazz Chisholm and Luis Garcia Jr., both New York Yankees, both with 30 points. Man, what a week of offense.
Where to begin? Where do you want to start, Doug? You want to start with the White Sox real quick? I mean,
break it down. Break me down.
Let's just go for it. Let's talk about the Savannah Banana himself, Tristan Peters. Man, I'm pretty sure we mentioned his name on Monday's episode, and we talked about the White Sox, Doug, and really just said, hey, this is a really good week for them. And we said, those guys that have been pretty good for them, like the Miguel Vargases of the world, those are the guys that you wanted to put in this week. Tristan Peters is coming off of a heater also last week as well, and he carried over this week with it. So, again, if you took the advice, picked them up, again, what did you say, Doug? 17% owned? Like, barely owned in a lot of leagues. And we were talking about streamers. We talk about the injured outfielders. This guy would have been a plug-and-play perfect for you this week. So, him, Tristan Peters, Miguel Vargas, right? Just bouncing back after going through a little bit of a slump for a few weeks there. But man, the power's there. The White Sox are still in first place, and they're not slowing down, Doug. I think they got the AL Central on lock right now. It's incredible that we're saying that this year, but it's a great thing to see. It took them a long time to rebuild, right? We saw all the trades that they made. This is the point. This is the time that they thought they were going to actually start competing, and they are. So you got to give them a lot of credit. Going back to the list here, I mean, Dylan Lyle, a guy that is kind of having a sneaky good season. He gets overshadowed by the CJ Abrams of the worlds, and Curtis Menn was there when he was playing before he was traded to the Sox. You got James Wood, but Dylan Lyle is slowly putting together a 2020 season. He's got 18 home runs to the season so far. He's got about 13, 14 stolen bases on top of that. He might crack 2020. It's only his second full season in the major leagues. He might bounce back more into next year, 2027, along with Dylan Cruz. They got a really young team over there, and they do like what they're seeing and what they're doing. But like you said, the rest of the list there, Doug, Rafael Devers, obviously playing against Boston, did have a home run in that series, which was crazy. He also did strike out a few times, but again, that's what we know with Rafael Devers. But good to see him bouncing back. Really just having an up and down season to this point. Ian Happ, another guy that's really hot cold at times, can strike a ton out. Already has. He's actually kind of regressing a little bit from his previous years when it comes to the average and strikeout category. And then, let's just take a quick second and recognize the man, the myth, the legend, Cal Riley, back on the, not quite the who's hot list, but honorable mention. I mean, that's the best we've gotten so far to this point with this guy, right, Doug? What do you do with the Cal Riley moving forward after these performances?
Dude, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if you trust him, dude. I mean, think about it. You got fantasy playoffs starting next week for some leagues, not all, but for some. I mean, if you were in a league that you're not starting next week, but you have another week to start him and see how he does for that week, that's the ideal situation. However, if your playoffs start next week, I don't know if I'm still rolling out of Cal Riley with just a week of production. I mean, he needs to show me more. If playoffs are 2 weeks away as opposed to one, that's a different story. I roll him in the lineup. I see if he can maintain. If he can maintain, I feel a little more comfortable starting him. If he can't, that's tough. I mean, it would all depend on who you have, really, because he can kill you. Like we talk about, man, that guy could kill. He could give you like -5 points in a week, and there you go. You just lost in the first round of the fantasy baseball playoffs.
Oh, 1,000%. We're going into next week. Next week, he is playing against Boston in 2 games, and then he's at home against the Athletics, which we both know Athletics are out of it. They're really dumpster fire team at this point. Too many injuries. So maybe there's some potential there going against the Athletics. But again, like you said, you can't really trust them after only having, 70 hits throughout the whole entire year after having 60 home runs the year before. We knew there was going to be a regression, but we didn't expect this year. So again, I think you're absolutely right on that. I think I'm kind of steering away from Cal Riley still. It was a great week. It was awesome to see him do what he did, but the consistency hasn't been there. So it's just, again, just tough to trust a guy like that. But it's great to talk about him again. Not going to lie, the big dumpster, right?
Honestly, you really think about it. Yeah, he hit 4 home runs, but 3 of them were in one game. You take that out, he's not making this list, right? So I don't know. Honestly, like you said, he's going up against Boston. I'd love to see who's in line to pitch, because if it is like a Sonny Gray, I don't know if I would start him still. It's tough. I mean, Gage Jump with the A's, he's hit or miss. He had an 11 strikeout game just a couple starts ago. Like, they're not as bad as the A's are. It's more on the offense than the pitching right now, in my opinion. That offense is just, it's a shame. Yeah, you got 5 players on the IL. I totally forgot about Brent Rooker until last week.
I know, it's too bad. Like Ian Happ reminds me of like a Brent Rooker. That was the kind of hand in hand, strike out a few times, get the power and stuff. But just to wrap up this list here, you did mention a couple Yankee players, right? We talked about Jazz Chisholm. I think we can say it's been a fairly disappointing year for Jazz Chisholm. He's only got 252 points in our league. It's a points league. It's a weekly league. Strikeouts do matter. This guy was projected to be a top 5 second baseman, Doug, in a lot of people's rankings. And that's just not the case, right? Like, this guy, I think, peaked a little too early in his career, I think, with Miami. And then he went to New York and then really just hasn't, really sparked it since those really good years he's really had over there beforehand. And then you have Luis Garcia, who I think has been up and down for the Yanks since being traded there. I don't think he's been electric or anything like that, but he does supply power, which is great to see, because that's something I think they do needed. They do need it. That's a real sentence. That's a real compound.
I know exactly what you were saying.
With Judge being out, Judge is obviously swinging the bat now a little bit. Hopefully he'll be back soon for them, but they did need some power in there. Ben Rice has been picking up a little bit again as well. Ben Rice is almost at 40 home runs, by the way. Just incredible this year for him. Breakout year for him. But yeah, middle infield with Jazz Chisholm, Luis Garcia. Good to see it. You got Cody Bellinger back in that lineup. Yankees are looking to make a push. Nothing else you can really say about that. Jazz Chisholm, I still don't trust them. And going into next year, the only way I'm going to get Jazz Chisholm if he falls in rounds, because I'm not going to reach for a guy like a Jazz Chisholm who can strike out a ton and sometimes just doesn't even have the production behind that to even be worthy, in my opinion. Is that crazy to say, Doug? Am I crazy to say that? Only 252 points this year.
I was never a Jazz guy to begin with. I get like the appeal, the stolen bases and the power, like the 20-20, 25-25 type player he could be, but he's never really showed it, right? I mean, he had that one breakout year, and then it was just, I feel like he just got worse as the years went on. He looked good with the Yankees when they traded for him that half of the year, but then nothing else, nothing. So, like you said, I I'm not going for him. I don't believe it. I'm not eating. I'm not eating that meal. That Jazz meal is done. So yeah, it is what
Yeah.
it is.
Curious to see where people are going to put him in rankings, from other people. I got an idea where I'm going to put him already. I have a really strong feeling, going into the offseason that I don't even know if I consider him a top 10 second baseman going into next year. How about that? How about that bold prediction?
That makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't either. I honestly at this point, would you rather have a Luis Garcia or Jazz Chisholm?
I would rather Luis Garcia
Exactly.
all
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
And then you got other guys that really showed up this year too at second base. And then you also had a couple of guys like a Kenta Marte, obviously falling kind of off a cliff a little bit, on the radar when it comes to fantasy. But you had a lot of guys this year that jumped up in second base and making it real relevant again.
Yeah, I think that'll be a pretty deep position going into drafts. I mean, I can name off 5 or 6. Bryce Terang, he said Marte, Ozzie Albies is a top 4. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, Nico Horner, yeah, he was one for like the first 3 months. Kind of had that concussion issue, had to get hit, but he's slowly coming back a little bit. So there is, I'd say, there's optimism for that position.
Yeah, you got J.J. Willehalt, throw him in there. Great rookie season so far. Played a lot of second base, so he'll have that eligibility again. Just a lot to like there. A lot to like in that position. Deep position next year. That's exciting. Usually second base is not a deep position.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So you're going from that to pitching. Let's talk some hot pitchers here because these guys, I mean, none of them are surprised. Obviously, they're the top 2 NL Cy Young vote getters. One much more than the other. But let's talk about the other for now. And let's talk about Braves starting pitcher Chris Sale, who's 99.7% owned. 1-1 his last 2. One was a complete game shutout. He's got 15 innings, 17 strikeouts, just 2 earned, no walks, 51.2 points. His first start was at Milwaukee against the Brewers, where he only gave up 2. Then the Dodgers. He's hot. I think he's got 6 or 7 quality starts in a row. And the craziest thing is he's got six or 7 in a row, and I think he's got like 2 or 3 losses with those. No run support. This game didn't matter. I loved this Dodgers game because he said, you know what? You only want to give me a run. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to take it to the distance. That's exactly what he did. The guy's a hoss, man. He is old school. Give me the ball. I'm going to close this down. And he did it. I mean, you could tell that those at-bats against Ohtani, hitting 100.1, hitting 99.6. He was on fire. But then, of course, you got Brewers starting pitcher Jacob Mizorowski. And I did want to talk about him a little bit with you, Mike. Now, let me go over his numbers first, and then I'll tell you. So 99.6% owned, 2-0, 12 innings, 12 strikeouts, 2 earned, 4 walks, 45 points. His first start was versus the Braves. Then he was at the Mets. And my thing with him is I've noticed the last maybe month or so, the strikeouts aren't as high as they usually are, right? Think about it. You talk about early in the year when he's going 6 innings, he's usually at double-digit strikeouts, 8 to 10, sometimes 12. But I've noticed the strikeouts are going down a little bit. The walks are going up a little bit. And he is starting to give up some runs here and there. Yeah, he only gave up 2 runs, but again, 2 runs against the Mets. That's, so I don't know what they're going to do with him. There's still about probably just a month left. You do got they're going to be in the playoffs. They're going to win the Central. I wonder what they're going to do with him. And, of course, at this point, I don't think it matters as far as the NL Cy Young race. Like if he doesn't pitch again for the rest of the year, I feel like he's still going to win the Cy Young. His numbers are just too good not to. But it's an interesting conversation to have. And then let me run off these honorable mentions real quick. You had Erod, 44 points. You had Jesus Luzardo at 37. You Hayden Wazinski, Randy Vasquez, Noah Cameron, 33. George Kirby, Scooble, 26. And then finally, Andrew Painter, Dylan Cease, Yamamoto, and we talked about Gage Jump. They all gave you 25 points. So it actually was a really good week for starting pitching for the most part.
Yeah, you got your big names. You got your low-key names, like you said, Justin Gage there. And honestly, like, let's just start from Chris Sale, right? This is a guy that is ranked, just about in every top 5 fantasy league for the most part. I think he's actually number 3 in our league, Doug. And, guy doesn't miss. I mean, he really doesn't. If it wasn't for those, couple errors, in a couple games, he, like you said, he would have more wins and he would have more points, and he'd probably be like the second guy, behind Miz. But really, it's the Miz show, and it's still the Miz show. I think you bring up some great points though, and really, if you want to compare it to last year, right? I think last year, I was just looking it up. I think he had 66 innings pitched. And then right now, he's got 151 innings pitched. So again, we're not including AAA or anything like that. So he does probably have, about over 100 innings or so for the total year last year, if you include his starts from AAA. But again, he's jumping up pretty big. And to put it into context too, Paul Skeens' first year, he pitched 23 games. I think he had about 133 innings or so. And then I think last year, or maybe 110, and then it was like 160, 170. So it was about a 50 inning jump in between years. And then this year he's doing what he's doing. So Jacob Mizorowski. So that's like the easiest comparison I can try to make here. So he's already eclipsing what Skeens already did in his second year when it comes to his innings limits. And like you said, he is starting to get hit around a little bit more. And he throws so hard, which means you're going to get hit hard too. And you're seeing some of that times, giving up a home run, couple home runs here and there. I mean, they don't have to swing hard. They just have to get there before the ball does. And again, Miz is going to be great. He's going to be a legendary player. He already is, but yeah, 151 innings so far to this point, down the stretch here. I do think fantasy managers don't have to worry. And I only say that because we only have about 3-4 weeks left. Next week, I'm in a league. We start playoffs next week. Next week, we're in a league. We have one more regular season week. So I'm talking like 3 to 4 weeks here that we're probably talking about for the rest of the fantasy baseball season as a whole. That means Miz, he pitched yesterday, which was Thursday. He's going to probably pitch Wednesday or so next week. He probably really realistically has about 5 or 6 more starts. And if he does, that, put it at about 6 innings per, like he usually does. And that puts him about 180. And I don't think that's it's a lot for a young guy like himself for sure, but he's not really showing that much fatigue where you have to worry about it. Like you said, the strikeouts are down a little bit the last couple of outings, but really, I don't think he's gonna get pulled back until really like late September. I think late September, then you might see 3 innings, 50 pitches, and then they're gonna pull him because they're gonna get ready for that playoff push. I just don't think fantasy managers this year have to worry about that. What do you think?
I don't know, man. I think they might. Maybe not. Maybe not next week with the first round, but I think maybe going forward after that, I would worry a little bit, just a little. It's just because you're saying that he's going to be at 180 innings, and that's even before the playoffs. Like I think, as in a team that is making a playoff run, he's the biggest reason why they are in the hunt and why they're there, why they're going to win the division. Why would they have him? You're looking at over 200 innings if you count, depending on how deep they go for a first year for a stretch. That's a lot, man. I mean, you say he's at around 150. I mean, in retrospect, I would probably want him to only go like 165, like 10 more, really, if I was the manager, because I know I'm going to win. I'm going to get in the playoffs. I just, I want to go and make a deep run, and I just don't want to. I don't know. I also think of like the longevity here. Like, it's almost like with the Nationals with Strasburg, right? Came out and he didn't want him to play. They didn't have him play the playoffs, even though he got him there. So I don't know. That's why, a manager is one of the tougher jobs in baseball, one of the tougher positions. It's an underrated one because you got to make these decisions that it's going to impact where you're going to go to not only just in the rest of the year for playoffs. Now you're talking next year, right? And Jacob Mizorowski in his first full year giving you 200 plus innings. I don't know if that's going to set you up for success next year. I mean, we've seen what it did to Crochet and Skeens,
It's very true. I mean, it's very true. Right now, 151 innings. He's got over 220 strikeouts. I guess like my counter argument would be, this guy's going for a Cy Young. I think he wants to finish out the season strong if he can. He hasn't really shown that much fatigue to this point. I don't know. But again, you look at the standings. I'm looking at the Brewers, 7.5 games up in the NL Central. So they got that at command. Central all locked down. I don't see any really team jumping up on them unless the Cubs go bananas or something like that. But really, though, they have that option where they could, bring him back a little bit because they do have such a cushion. They really don't need him to go out there every week if they don't need to.
So and here's my thing though. If he doesn't pitch another game for the rest of the year, I think he still won Cy Young. He's got a 1.70 ERA. He's got his numbers, like you said, tons of strikeouts over innings. I honestly, I think you still give it to him, even if he doesn't pitch another game for the rest of the year.
That's tough. That's tough. I don't want to discount Chris Sale. I truly don't, because I'm a Miz guy, obviously, but Chris Sale, his ERA is a 2.0, with a 1 whip, just unreal, like stupid numbers. Like he's still at a very high level. If he went out there and pitched the whole year and then Miz didn't pitch another game, I don't know. That'd be close. I think that'd be a little bit closer than you think.
I still would think Mizorowski would get it. Just his overall numbers. Sale won't get to the strikeouts. He won't get to the ERA. It's just, to me, some of those metrics, even the wins. Doesn't Mizorowski, what does he have, 16 wins or so?
Yeah, he's got I got it right here actually. He has 14-5 right now.
So he's okay. So Sale could probably, but still, he's only got 5 losses. Sale's got 9.
True.
I mean, I still think if he doesn't pitch for the rest of the year, he is obviously going to pitch. But I'm just saying, like, if he didn't, for the sake of argument, he would still win the Cy Young. I totally 100% agree that that's going to happen. That would.
Yeah. No, hey, he's a stud. He's been a stud. And I mean, 151 innings with 221 strikeouts.
Exactly.
We haven't seen that in years. We haven't seen that since, vintage Max, probably. Like that's the type of numbers that we're talking about. Like that ratio, just insane. Like if he really. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say the only way Chris Sale could even come like, if he doesn't pitch again and Chris Sale ends up giving you like another complete game shutout down the road, then maybe we talk. But I mean, his last complete game shutout was in 2019. I mean, it's a rarity. So I doubt that's not going to happen this year.
No. I think there was a lot of testosterone. I think there's a lot of energy in the park. I think he was a gamer, and I think he knew he was going the distance after like the 7th inning. I think he knew 8th and 9th was his still. So. But like you said, Jacob Mizorowski going into the playoffs, you do have to account for that. So if he is going to start game 1, which you would assume he would, he was going to try to go 6 or 7 innings there. He's going to get another start at the very least in that same round, probably. So you are talking probably at least, 20-ish innings or so. If he did go at least 3 starts, and then if he does a 4th and a 5th, now you're talking 30, and if he already goes 180 in the regular season, you're talking over 200 innings for a guy. It's a very good point to bring up. It's a very good point. And again, I think what's his age? He's relatively young still, right?
Oh yeah.
Like he's 24. So like you said, the longevity. We talked about the Strasburg situation. Like, I don't think it's going to be as drastic as Strasburg, but just again, interesting. We saw it with Blake Snell a couple of years ago too. Once he started going back a little bit, so it's good stuff.
Yeah. All right. So we go and Mike James made a funny comment because man, talk about Ben Sheets. I mean, I remember playing fantasy baseball with Ben Sheets. That's how old. Man. So
that
yeah,
was your guy, Doug.
He was. I was a big Ben Sheets guy. Ben Sheets and Jake Peavy. I was a big Peavy guy too.
Yeah, the Peave man when he was San Diego.
Boston. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. See, his year was similar to King Felix, like those guys. They never won a ton of games, but they did so much. They were always Cy Young contention. Low ERAs, high strikeouts. It's like, we talk about it all the time, like the win-loss record. How much substance should it hold, or weight should it hold when it comes to Cy Young voting? because okay, Sale's 13-9, but ERA right around 2, right? I mean, there's his numbers a 1 WHIP. Those are like you said, those are Cy Young numbers, but he's 13-9. So it's those win-loss records. I wonder how much weight they actually hold. That's the only thing.
I don't think as much anymore. I really don't. We've seen guys win Cy Youngs now that don't have overwhelming win numbers. We saw it with King Felix. We saw it, I believe, with Jacob deGrom as well. Like those guys don't have to win a lot of games as long as they're producing in other metrics. That's what the writers and the voters are probably going to really look at. So, like you said, even if Chris Sale does go out there 7 more times than Miz or 5 more times than Miz, it's hard to dispute the metrics of what Miz has done to this point if he didn't pitch another game again for this hypothetical conversation that we're having.
Telling you.
It's a very interesting. What are we going to do, Doug? We're going to keep a pulse on it, right? We're going to keep a pulse
That's
on
it. Just keep the pulse on. All right, let's talk about who's not hot. Let's talk about the guys that are cold, the guys that are freezing. Oof. And yeah, it's a rough list, man. I'll tell you, 3 of those guys right here, if you were telling me like 10 years ago, this is like an all-star team with these 3. But let's start out with the hitting, right? Philly shortstop Trey Turner, 84.2% owned, hit you 0.77, no homers, no ribbies, 2 runs, 8 strikeouts, no stolen bases, -3 points. And then White Sox third first baseman Murakami, 90% owned, 0.91, no homers, no ribbies, 3 runs, 13 strikeouts, -3 points. And then some honorable mentions. You got Brandon Lowell, -2. Ivan Herrera, Dylan Dingler gave you 0. Ronald Acuna gave you 1. Tyler Ward gave you 2. Ernie Clement, Brandon Nimmo, Julio Rodriguez gave you 3. And then last but not least, Wilyer Abreu gave you 4 points.
Man, it's tough to hear Willier's name pop up here. He's been so good for the Sox and really pretty good outfielder in fantasy as well. Really just a solid number 2-3 guy out there, especially with the power. We'll start from the top. Trey Turner, obviously a regression year to this point so far. Really hasn't even battled that many injuries this year either. He's really been healthy. Just really hasn't producing like we used to see him. But he's getting older. He's just an older guy now. So the stolen bases aren't there anymore. The power, that's not really there anymore. He's still a productive shortstop for the most part, but really, I don't even know if he's quite a top 10 shortstop to this point. And I think really at this point, we saw him in the draft last year, and he fell in a lot of drafts too, as a guy that has a lot of name recognition, and he still fell in drafts. So I think this is kind of the new Trey Turner that you're really going to see moving forward, where we might have a little bit more of upticks and strikeouts. Maybe that average isn't as great, and then also it's the power and stolen bases, especially the stolen bases. That was the secret sauce for Trey Turner for years, and again, just kind of going the other way. So we're going to have to reevaluate him going into 2027 for sure. Murakami, look, up and down all year. That's just what we knew he was going to be. We knew the strikeouts are going to be there all year, but we knew the power was there. I just feel like since he's come back from that injury, though, Doug, he just really hasn't been like as explosive. Maybe the cat's out of the bag a little bit more film on him and stuff. But again, he just hasn't popped off in any of these weeks. Since the All-Star break. So again, going into next year, and I always say next year too, because again, we're at the end here. Like we are really starting to, forecast a little bit into next year here. And, I can't wait to talk about, the breakout guys. We're going to have, probably a nice conversation in the next couple of weeks about who broke out, who didn't break out. We're going to have the bust. We're going to have the duds, right? But Murakami, I still think it's been a successful season for him as a major leaguer. But maybe in fantasy, I'd say mid. I don't think he was bad, but I don't think he was unbelievable either, unless we're talking about him in April and May a little bit too. But other than that, though, he's kind of taken that step back. And then, like you said, the remainder of the list here, you have Ernie Clement on here. You have Brandon Nimmo. I mean, those guys really haven't done too much, for a minute. J-Rod, again, talking about honorable mentions on the not list. Like, come on. Like, when are we going to stop drinking the Kool-Aid with J-Rod here? I just don't know when. Of course, the 1 homer does come off of Sir Zach Wheeler. We're going to talk about him in a second, I know, Doug. But Just had to mention it real quick. Just unbelievable 3-run shot. And then, like you said, Willie Abreu, Tyler Ward, Ronald Acuna's on this list. And, and unfortunately, we're talking about Dylan Dingler again. He was on that list last week, too. And unfortunately, we're going to talk about him again, just not really producing for that Tigers team, which is really starting to slip a little bit in that AL Central. So, yeah, kind of a tough crew here. What do you think about Trey Turner, Doug? That's the biggest name I think on this not list, that we're familiar with. So, what are you looking for him next year?
I was going to ask you the question of if he's still a top 10. I don't know. I mean, he's a guy you'll probably get some value on because I think he's going to go a lot later based off of how he's, been performing as of late. But with that said, I mean, he has hit the hot list a couple times. He's not, done completely. You could get some value on him next year, especially if you punt on shortstop. It is one of the deepest positions. We talk about that all the time. And shortstop is the deepest, in my opinion, as far as people contributing and points and all that good stuff. I mean, and think about all the shortstops that aren't performing right now. Lindor, just imagine, like, if he was heating up. So there it is.
Mookie Betts.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of shortstops that you could probably get a pretty good deal on next year in the draft just based off of performances this year. Trey Turner is one of them. I'm not a Trey guy. I never was. I get the allure. He used to have good power, speed combo type player, but he doesn't have that anymore. He has bursts of it, which is nice, but he just doesn't have it. And he never used to strike out a ton. And now you're starting to see them pile up. And of course that comes with age. So I don't know. He's like on the cusp of a top 10 shortstop for me anyways, but it all depends what they do with that lineup too. If they re-sign Luis Arias and, I think that's a big piece they need to re-sign. And I might buy on a Trey Turner real low.
It's a sleeper, right? That's a guy that's name power. And then if he just falls in draft, you could say, oh, that's a sleeper, Right. You can kind of spin it almost a little bit with Trey Turner. And I agree. I think they do need to focus on Luis Arias too. They do need to focus on that this offseason. He really makes that lineup go round. Like, it makes it better. Bryce Harper has been very good the last few weeks. And I do believe it's a testament to Luis Arias in that lineup. And then, like you said, the shortstops, I think right now, we're starting to see a new wave come in. The Trey Turners, the Lindors, the Betts. I mean, they're not getting younger. So I do think there's kind of a new crop coming in. We talked about JJ with a little bit. You got Ellie De La Cruz, who's actually having a pretty decent year so far to this point. Gunnar Henderson, he's there, but still, again, I think he took a huge step back when it comes to fantasy and how we evaluate him moving forward. Unless his name is Bobby Witt, I don't think there's really a top, 3-round shortstop that you go after at this point anymore. I think even Lindor is kind of out that window as well, just because of what he's been doing since he's come back from his injury.
CJ Abrams is a cusp.
How dare I forget him?
He is a cusp, I will say.
He's
actually ranked number 1 right now this year so far. So
yeah, I take it back. He deserves his flowers 100%. Dude, so many names we've got to remember. Sometimes you just,
hey, just like Brent Rooker.
Just Brent Rooker.
The Rook.
Just forgetful. It's terrible. But yeah, you're right. CJ Abrams, Bobby Witt. I think that's really your only probably 2, unless I'm forgetting someone else. But I think those are your 2 shortstops in the top 3 rounds.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, so let's talk about pitching real quick. Rangers starting pitcher Jacob deGrom, 95% owned, 0-1, 3 2/3, 2 strikeouts, 8 earned, 5 walks, negative 9.24 points. Like, it's a hot White Sox team. We had them on Monday's show. We said stay clear, play hard, play as many White Sox players as you can. We figured they would be busting out, and they have, and they are today too. And then Phillies starting pitcher Zach Wheeler, 97% owned, 0-1, 4 innings, 4 strikeouts, 8 earned, 5 walks, negative 7.08 points against a lowly Mariners team in Seattle. I feel like the team, like, when they play in Seattle, it's a different team all of a sudden. They pitch better there. They hit better there. It's bizarre if you look at the splits. And then some honorable mentions here. Brian Wu, -4. Bryce Miller, -3. Chase Burns, -3. Gavin Williams, -1.3. Kyle Bradish, -0.9. Jose Soriano, -0.6. And last but not least, the Predator himself, Framber Valdez, -0.12 points.
There it is. There's the Framber Valdez mention right there. Man, let's just start from the top. I'm going to start with Zach Wheeler. This has been awful with Zach Wheeler. I mean, this whole second half still hasn't had a win. Still struggling.
I got to say about Brad saying, I'm with you boys at home sick. Brad, I hope you don't get better because I want you watching the show next week too.
Well, I hope you get better. I hope you get better. Oh, man. No, yeah, we need the views. Yeah, Zach Wheeler. Again, 8 earned runs against a lonely Seattle offense. And you got guys like J-Rod popping off on him, just awful, just terrible. So I don't know what to do with him at this point, Doug. I just think he's a week-to-week guy. I think, you would want to say, oh, I want to play the matchups. But, you have to kind of raise the question, is this guy kind of hurt at this point? Is there something else going on behind the scenes with Zach Wheeler that maybe we're not seeing or being, notified on? Because it's just so weird for him to be pitching this bad. And I know what you're going to say next. He's famous for this. Every second half, he comes in.
Knew it.
Struggles. But still, as good as a pitcher as he is, and you see how he finishes the season with his stats, you would just think he would have a couple of good games in the second half. But he hasn't really had any. So I don't even know what to do with them. I'm kind of probably steering away until he figures it out. It's unfortunate to say that. We're talking about a guy that's a stud. But, we got to be realistic, just like we are with Paul Skeens, just like we are with most of the Seattle pitchers. Like you just mentioned, we got a Brandon Wu sighting again on the Who's Not Here. That guy had the most consecutive starts forever. Just crazy. So, I don't know. Same thing with Jacob deGrom. I just think he's been struggling. It is what it is. Getting older, wear and tear. Texas is holding on by a thread. And I think really he's just going off into the sun at this point. I think he's just going to stay in Texas. He's going to pitch his innings and then just kind of figure it out afterwards after he's finished in Texas. I think he's got like 3 years left there for his contract. It's pretty lengthy still.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, it's tough. I mean, when I talked about Jacob deGrom Monday, I said stay clear of him against the White Sox. I mean, you look at his start against the Nationals. Yeah, he got the 2,000 strikeouts. He looked good, but again, it was a lineup that didn't have a C.J. Abrams, that didn't have a James Wood. Now you look at his starts prior to that. I think his last 5 or 6, he looked horrible. And going against the White Sox, I think they were in Chicago. To me, it just smelled like a disaster. And I think that's exactly what happened. Wheeler, like I said, he does this every year, not to this bad though. So maybe, he did miss a ton of time. Maybe it's just slowly creeping up to him. There's a couple things that could be reason why, but yeah, he is notorious for fantasy. Just because I don't know. It's like whoever I play in the finals, they have him and he just craps to bed. And I mean, it makes me smile, but in another way, it's like, okay, he's a guy you want, but then he's a guy you trade away while he's hot. You know what I mean? And then Brad was talking about Kirby. And Brad, I'm a Kirby guy. I own Kirby. Mm-hmm. He's been hit or miss this second half. Amazing first half. Same thing with Bryce Miller. Amazing first half. But dude, that Mariners team, like Mike was just talking about, it is so unpredictable. It is tough. The only guy I'm probably rolling out there week in and week out is Gilbert. But even then, I get a little scared because I remember watching the Yankees game, and you got runners on first and second with no outs, and you're like, oh my God, is this going to happen again? Luckily, he gets out of it. I think he ends up giving up like a sac fly, gives up a run, but that was the only run he gave up for the game. You still ask yourself, though, you're like, oh, because there's just no confidence with anybody on that rotation, really.
And there isn't. I'm looking at Kirby too. It was only his second win since the All-Star break too. He's another guy that hasn't been pitching well at all. And even leaving up before that, it was a little inconsistent as well. We know when Kirby's on, we're both Kirby guys. That guy can go 7, 8 innings at times. He really good efficiency at the mound. And then he still gets strikeouts too. But it's just kind of been a weird year for Seattle, I think, as a whole. Just hasn't really clicked on both sides yet. And like you mentioned, Doug, earlier, like I was looking at the splits as well, and they're like 7 or 8 games up, 500 playing at home. They are a pretty good home team. And then it's just when they hit the road and they play those more, better teams of 500, then it kind of goes south a little bit. But when they're at home, they play really good baseball. So I probably play the matchups again, when it comes to their pitching going in. Because again, they're still pitching relatively well and they're winning games. So if you're in a point league, that's kind of a thought that you have to keep considering.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, there's not much you could say. It's like you wish you had a time machine because, before our trade deadline, a lot of people wanted a Kirby, and I kept saying, no. I think he's going to continue. And it's one of those things where you're just like, I should have just pulled the trigger. I should have done it. But
you're right. It was a trade deadline. He was one of those guys. Ranger Suarez, right? He was another one of those guys coming back from injury around that time, and it was just you just wanted depth. You wanted quality depth, and those are the type of guys that you kind of seek out. I think Kirby for you at that point also too would be like a buy low, just based off how he was pitching, and then also how we know he can be pretty good, just like he was this week. Pitched great.
I know. So let's talk about some underperformers here, or overperformers. And actually, we'll start with the over. And I like to call them good surprises because they're people that, they're going to be decent, but you didn't think they were going to be this good. And I don't know if I can rely just on Sanchez and Schlittler and dropping others as to maximize. I was just reading Brad's last thing. Because he's right now he's stuck on relying on Sanchez and Schlittler. I'll tell you, I mean, Schlittler is another guy that he's going to be monitored too. He has to. I mean, he's got tons of innings already. So I don't even know what his last 4 starts of the year would even look like, which is in your second, third round fantasy playoffs. So.
I was going to say, we talk about guys that are young, the Slitzers, the Mizes. There's going to be some type of regression toward the end of the year because these guys haven't pitched this much ever, this long in their career so far. Cam Slitzer is setting records right now for his career highs. So is Miz. So we don't know what these guys look like, especially in the second half when they don't really have a resume almost, right? That's what it comes down to. Some of these guys can, heal up, longevity in that, but everything else, though, I don't know. It's tough to gauge these guys second half.
It's a long season. It's a very long season. All right, so let's talk overperformers. And I have to give my love to Lopez. Otto Lopez, man. Talk about you second shortstop. We were just talking about infield position. Man, Otto Lopez, 93% owned. He had a really good week, 304, no homers, 5 ribbies, 4 runs, 5 stolen bases, 27 points, 4.5 a start. Like I said, I got to give some love to the Otts. Man, I remember picking him up last year when one of my guys went down, and he had his moments, but man, he has turned it up a notch this year. One of the most consistent fantasy performers, 308, 9 homers, 59 ribbies, 79 runs, only 75 strikeouts, 29 stolen bases. He's giving you 2.9. He's like a top option for second base. I think the thing that surprises me the most, it's not the stolen bases, which is 29. It's not the runs. It's the fact that he has almost 60 ribbies. That to me is a crazy stat because he was a leadoff guy last year. And I also find it funny that it sounded like, at least from last year, Xavier Edwards was going to really be the standout in this lineup, but Lopez has far succeeded him in that. Although, I mean, to his credit, Edwards is still having a pretty solid fantasy year. Lopez is just dominating. This is a guy that he was a free agent pickup in probably most leagues. You can't ask for better production. Next year he's going to be on a lot of people's radar. You just know it. But for now, for the rest of the year, I mean, you start him, you ride the wave. Nothing tells me this is going to stop. He's going to get his at bats. What a find! What a diamond in the rough to say.
I am an Otto Lopez guy from the get-go. This guy, year in, year out, saw him progressing, and now it's like coming actually together for him. He also has 29 stolen bases. Like, guy's a menace on there. 306, OBP, 342. That's what you look for, not just in the second baseman and shortstop, but in anybody. And he can play both positions. I just think he's going to be the staple to that Miami team, I think, for years to come. I really do, just because there's not a lot cooking there right now. I feel like this year's kind of been, they peaked a little early, and then they kind of just fell back down to kind of mediocrity. We know Sandy's been pitching a ton. We still don't know why. We're still seeing him getting thrown out there. Obviously, Xavier Edwards will be part of that franchise for years to come as well. Very young guy himself. So I think both these guys, and him and Lopez, and then you got Sandy, that's going to be pretty much your core going into this rebuild, going into this next offseason here. And I don't think Otto Lopez is going to slow down next year at all either. I still think he's going to keep producing. He's just kind of that contact hitter guy type. And also the strikeouts, not many, not too bad. It's like workable, So again, we talk about the deep position. We just talked about shortstop. We just talked about second base. Otto Lopez easily could be top 10 in either of those positions going into next year. So overperforming, yes, but maybe this could be the new standard for him going into 2027 as well. Do you think that's far-fetched? Or do you think this is more like a, Gino from the D-backs last year? Obviously he had a crazy good year, but is it just one of those kind of just, spike outliner seasons?
No, he's always been a contact guy. The strikeouts were never there. They're still not. So I don't think it's an outlier. It might be overperforming, but I don't think he's far off. You know what I mean? As far as like the drop isn't going to be huge decline. If there is a regression, it's going to be very minimal. I think it will be anyways, because the home run, most of the numbers are there, but like I said, it's a little surprising that that the RBIs are there. Almost 60 ribbies for him. That's pretty good. It's pretty good for someone who's just really kind of just a slap hitter.
Yeah, this year it looks like he's really picking it up. This is his most stolen bases he ever had in his career in a season. The strikeouts are about par of what his last two seasons were with Miami. The power is just about the same. Like, he's a pretty stable guy. This is a guy that is going to have probably a high floor where you don't have to worry about him killing you in weeks. We talk about guys that can absolutely break you. But a guy like this, though, even if he did regress a little bit, he's batting 306. What if he just bats like 280? He still bats around, 330 OBP. He still steals you almost 30 bases a year pretty consistently. If this is what his, what he's leading up to here. So I don't know. I'd keep a pulse on him for sure going into next year's draft. And you could probably get him at a really good value too. Like you said, he was picked up in most leagues this year. So, just again, a value guy that you could really get in the later rounds. I'm talking, 14, 15, 16th round, give or take. Even later, potentially. We're going to put together a nice little cheat sheet for everyone this year and, have our rankings and everything. It's going to be great. But yeah, I'm kind of curious where he's going to land on the board next year. But I think wherever he lands, it's going to be a good value.
Yeah, I think he doesn't have that name recognition, right? That a lot of people are familiar with shortstops or second baseman. And I think if he's on your radar, that plays to your benefit because now he's just going to fall. So, yeah, I totally agree. The value's going to be there.
Yeah, and Brad says if he holds these numbers next year, 90% of people are going to have him on the radar, and that's very true. These guys, they do have appeal to people, especially when you have them on your team. And then what they do for you, you're always going to love that guy. Just like how, if someone kills you, you're always going to hate that guy. Otto Lopez this year, I think a lot of people became their favorite player because of what he's done so far.
A lot of love.
A lot of love.
All right, so let's talk about another overperformer, but let's switch it up to pitching. And this, I'm really saying he's actually looked really good recently, kind of living up to the hype. I'm talking about the Zeb. I'm talking about the Zeb man himself, twin starting pitcher Zebby Matthews, 7% owned, 1-0, 7 innings, 7 strikeouts, 1 earned, 1 walk, 24 points. Yes, it was at the A's. But similar to Otto, I had to give my love and give a shout out to the Zebster. He's actually put together 5 really good starts in a row against some playoff contending teams. Brewers, Braves, Orioles, 4-0 in his last 4. He's only gone over 6 innings once in those starts, but, I mean, they're not bad. 5 innings, 3 earned, 10 strikeouts. That was at the Mariners, Seattle. 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, 3 earned, a win at Milwaukee. So he can pitch away. He could also pitch at home. 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, 3 earned, the win versus the Orioles. 5 2/3, 4 strikeouts, 1 earned versus in the win versus the Braves, and then finally this one versus the A's. So I don't think this consistency can be kept up, but what a great time to peak, right? I mean, if he could finish the season on a high note, this guy who really isn't owned, 7%, might find himself on a few late round boards next year for drafts. Let's not forget the guy's 26. That's usually around the time these starting pitchers come into their own. So he is someone I'm at least monitoring for next year. I mean, I did start him this week against the A's in our Bourbon League. So I felt really good about that one. But I do like him. I mean, he was always touted as one of their top pitching prospects. So to see him finally succeed, winning 4 in a row, especially this late in fantasy, if you're one of the 7%, which I am, it's just a little humble brag. That's all.
I did just see that. Yeah, 3rd full season. Let's not call it a full season yet. He had 16 starts last year. He's got 18 to this point. And look, I'm looking at his numbers, man. It's trending. It is trending in the right direction. Everything is getting better. His ERA is getting better. Right now it's a 4.86. Obviously, we looked at his numbers earlier in the season. Not so great. We're talking about more modern day recent here, the stride that he's been taking to this point. Like you said, 4-0 in his last 4 starts, really putting it together. The strikeouts are also going up. The wins are also going up. He's 8-8 this year, so really not too bad out of 18 starts. But man, everything, like even the whip is also, getting worked on this year. So if he can carry this into next year, this is someone that's going to be a late rounder, very late rounder. No one thinks of twin pitchers and think, oh, fantasy baseball. I think that's the last time we heard that was probably Johan, right?
Pablo
Lopez, right? Maybe old school Sonny Gray. Sonny Gray had maybe a year that was pretty decent over there, right?
Yeah.
So maybe, but again, Zebby Matthews is not on a lot of people's radar. Like you said, 7% owned, really kind of just coming into his own the second half. And how many times, Doug, do we talk about how important it is for guys to finish in the second half and they take that momentum into the next season? And maybe Zebby Matthews is that type of guy. You know who he reminds me of is a 2023 Cole Ragans. And I say that because Cole Ragans we know is not Cole Ragans anymore. Like he had this like little peak window, and then all of a sudden now he's kind of like a little forgotten because of his injuries and everything. Zebby Matthews is almost that same type player. Cole Ragans had a great second half going into the next season, and then that carried over for that whole season for the Royals, and he was really good for them. And then all of a sudden, the injuries started happening. But he was peaking at the same time. He got traded from Texas. He went to Kansas City. I think he was like 26, 27, right about the same age as Zebby right now. You got Zebby climbing this ladder. And I'm just saying that, 4-0, if he can carry this out for the rest of the season, maybe they got something there. And now all of a sudden, you're looking at a pitcher that you can pick up in the 20th, 21st, 22nd round. And now you got a guy that's maybe going to get you 14 wins and, maybe a high 3, mid 3 ERA with a decent amount of strikeouts. Just saying. Just got to throw it against the wall and see if it sticks.
I mean, we always say it's all about how you finish in fantasy, and like you said to your point earlier, you know, if they're not there for you in the playoffs, you tend to forget about them or not draft them, and the ones that are, you tend to remember. And Sebi right now might be one of those guys you might remember if you are that 7%. Just saying.
Yep. Trevor Rogers was last year. Great player last year for me. Really carried me up until the end of the season. Had like a 2-something ERA. And obviously this year was up and down, but still that type of guy, Zebby Matthews.
All right, so let's talk about some not so good surprises.
Ooh.
And man, you had touched base on him a little bit. I'm going to go over his numbers for the week. So we're talking about Mariners outfielder Julio Rodriguez, better known as J-Rod himself, 96.5% owned. A 154. He did give you a homer, 3 ribbies, 3 runs, and a stolen base, but 12 strikeouts. So he gave you 3 points with a home run, which is insane. It's not good. So I really hope his performance this year kind of puts into perspective what we've been saying all along, that this guy might be just a little overrated, right? I mean, this is a 4th-round pick, averaging 2.1 a start in fantasy. That's a crime, man. If you're that high of a pick, just 2.1. Overall, 247, 20 homers, 56 ribbies, 61 runs, 17 stolen bases. I mean, those numbers sound decent, but just 264 points, 119 strikeouts. I'd say for the last 3 years, I've heard talk about J-Rod and the potential. He had a pretty decent start to his career. So, yeah, I could see the potential. But the alarming stat about him, and always was, the strikeouts, which has brought my hesitation on from even drafting him or even thinking about him in a draft for the last 3 years. I think, to me, he is more of a 7th-round pick. And I know for a fact, just because of the name recognition, he'll go before that, which is unfortunate. I mean, Mike, I feel like you used to be a J-Rod guy, and then you weren't, and I don't think you are anymore. But 2 questions now. Are you still a J-Rod guy? And what's his draft going to look like next year after another rough season in fantasy?
J-Rod's one of those guys where you got to think with your head and not your heart. And J-Rod, we want to love. We want to love J-Rod. And I want to make it very clear. I don't think J-Rod's a bad baseball player at all. I'm not saying he's a bad baseball player. He's a very good baseball player. He put up 32 home runs last year. I mean, he's 30, I think this is his 5th or 6th straight season with 20 plus home runs. He's a very good baseball player. So I want to make the saying fantasy baseball and baseball are different. With that being said, J-Rod is not a top 10 outfielder. He's just not. 2.1 per game in a league like ours, Doug, really what you want to be is a 2.6, 2.7, 2.8 just to be startable. Just to be startable, baseline. Primetime players, we're talking over 3 points per game. But J-Rod's doing 2.1. What are we doing? No, J-Rod, it's great, and also his average and OBP regression this year compared to last year. He's usually a 260, 270 hitter. This year, he's down to 240. That whole lineup, it's just been off this whole entire year. If Cal Riley just shook Randy Arena's hand during the World Baseball Classic, we would not be talking about any of this. We wouldn't talk about Cal. We're not talking about J-Rod. They would have taken that momentum from last year and they would have carried over. I seriously think there was a big rift in that clubhouse because of that, because I think there was a weird vibe after all of that. And I think it affected everybody. I'm not saying just because, we're talking J-Rod, the whole thing I'm bringing up now, I'm going down a rabbit hole, but I just think it's been a disaster year for Seattle. And J-Rod, I think, kind of got deflected with that. Next year, I probably put him around the 5th or 6th round. That's where I think it's fair, because we know there is some potential there. But again, you just got to think with your head, not your heart. So make sure you don't reach for a guy like J-Rod as much as you want to, because the strikeouts are always going to be there still. Unless he gets rid of the strikeouts, the points are never going to stack up consistently for him. So fifth, sixth round, and I only say fifth, sixth round because, again, like you said, name recognition. People are still going to do it. You know, I want to put him in a mock, and I want to have this whole thing, you know, this offseason, and I'm going to put him in a ridiculous spot that no one else is going to put him. And people are going to be like, well, that's not realistic. That's not realistic. Going into this year, we talked about him. We said he's not going to be good again. It's just, you know, not a fantasy guy. Great baseball player. Not a fantasy baseball player, though.
Yeah, 2.1 to start. I mean, you can pick off guys off the waiver that are giving you more. And you know what's funny? You talk about the 20 home runs and the consistency with those. I have a fun stat for you as a Red Sox fan, Mikey V. A first baseman who's hit 20 home runs in his first 5 years. In every single year. Played first base. Even when he left the Red Sox, he went to the White Sox.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who he was?
He also had 100 career AAA home runs in Pawtucket as well. His name is Brian Daubach.
Yes.
How about that?
I think the fun stat was there's only like 3 Red Sox players that have ever started their careers 5 years in a row hitting 20-plus home runs. Nomar Garciaparra, Ted Williams, and Brian Daubach.
Number 23.
Brian Daubach.
His number should be up in the rafters. I don't know. Just saying.
The original Dirt Dog himself.
Oh, the best.
All right, let's talk underperforming for pitchers. This one's a tough one because I am a big Troy Melton fan. He's 68% owned. He's relief eligible as well. He had a really rough week. 0-2, 12 2/3, 7 strikeouts, 6 earned. 7 walks. Gave you 2 points. 2 points for the entire week on both starts. His first start was at Kansas City against the Royals, then versus Tampa Bay. This is what makes the playoff season so hard. This is exactly what you were talking about, right? All these guys that perform for you for most of the year, they hit that wall. That long season total can start, and it is. I think for Troy Melton, he's showing it. 0-2 in his last 4. 3 earned he gave up to the Rays, 3 earned to the Royals, 1 earned to the White Sox, but he only went 4 innings. I really don't think it'll get much easier for him because when you're in fantasy playoffs, he'll be playing divisional teams, which I know it's a weak division, but they play each other so hard in the AL Central. I don't get it. They're horrible teams, but for some reason, it's like when they play each other toward the end of the year, it's almost like they're having playoff matchups. Now, here's the other thing. Melton in last year gave you 120 innings. He's at about 110. So he is on path. He will set career highs, and that is a concern for me because the Tigers are free-falling. The offense is falling asleep. Melton's not going to get much run support. So even if he does just give up 2 or 3 earned an outing, that's not going to translate to a win without the offense. So, listen, as far as an overall year is concerned, I think he's going to be targeted in drafts. I think this is a breakout year for him. I think he's going to continue to be a great pitcher. But for fantasy playoffs this year, I don't know if I would run him out there every start. It would be more of if a matchups look right type for me going forward. Great story, good pitcher. I think he's awesome. There's hesitation now because like we talk about the limits, the innings limits are there. The team is spiraling. The offense isn't there. He's got so much going against him this time of the year. Do you really want to run him out there when you could be one and done in the playoffs? Like this is the time where you got to start thinking about, I need guys that are consistent, that can perform. It's like we talk about, you talked about Monday, Nick Pavetta's coming back. You're going to start him in the playoffs when he hasn't really pitched in like a month and a half, or actually, longer than that now that I think about it. But yeah. I wouldn't trust putting him out there. So again, I don't think I'd trust putting anybody back from the IL on my playoff roster, but that's just me.
Yeah, great season so far to this point. Really kind of a breakout as well. He's going to be a guy next year that he's going to be on a different page from mine. It's going to be breakout, sleepers, or because like you said, unless he's not on your team, you're not sometimes keeping these guys in mind going forward. I don't know. This year it's tough because I'm looking at the schedule for the remaining year for the Tigers, and it's pretty decent. Next week they got going into September they got the Twins. They played the Twins a couple times actually, and then one yep. So if you start next week, there's some appeal there, but I think going into the playoff week, like the divisional semifinals week, you might have a window of opportunity there because they do have some home games against the Colorado Rockies. So, and that's appealing. Like, I think that at this point, it's going to be a matchups type. That's what we're talking about. I mean, he's been so good this year. How can you not just roll him out? Like, it's tough. Again, it's matchups, but I'm trusting him to go out there and produce because, again, to this point, ERA's sub-2, 1.0 whip. Like he's doing what he needs to be doing. And, I look at the walks a little high, but really I think, it masks a little bit because he's actually pitching really well. He can get a lot of guys out. So I don't know. It's been pretty, I don't know. I'm kind of buying for next year, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. I think the stuff is there. Yeah.
And also, how many times have you seen guys get traded from a team that were like an ace, right? Kind of out of it. And then all of a sudden they have another guy that just comes up from their system and just starts rocking and rolling. This could be it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just see it all the time. Even the CC year, right? CC gets traded. Well, who's coming right down the pipe from there? Cliff Lee was there. All of a sudden he came, and he just ended up dominating, winning a Cy Young for them. What do you have? 22 wins, just an absolute stud. It happens all the time.
Oh my God, that's actually a really good rotation.
So good. So Troy Melton, this is his chance. This is the next man up. They have a nice young rotation. The trade Corey Mize and Scooble. They really must trust their organization and their pitching because those are two pretty big names. You would think they would want one back or keep one, but they didn't. So these guys are going to get opportunities, just like how the Red Sox organization, you did have Connor early on before he got traded and getting hurt. You still have Peyton Tolley that got an opportunity. Now he's producing even early on in Jake Bennett's call up. He was producing pretty early on, and he's still going out there on a weekly basis. So again, we're going to keep a pulse on these pitchers from Detroit because I really do think they got something cooking over there, and it might not be pretty now, but I think down the road they do have a pretty solid base going forward.
I agree. And the thing I wanted to talk about is for Casey Mize, it's almost like they knew Casey. Maybe he was a little overrated because he's getting whacked around even tonight. I mean, God,
is he?
Oof. Yeah, he's given up. He gave up two earned, but 7 runs total.
Oh, that's right. It's in Tampa. That's right. They're in town. I forgot.
So he's gonna get the loss on that too.
Okay.
In his last couple starts, he hasn't looked good ever since even going to the Padres. So I don't know. It could be a thing of like being comfortable in an area and maybe something to get used to. So it'll be interesting to see, how he finishes the year and what next year going to look like for him for sure. But for Troy Melton this year, a little rough patch lately. A couple of losses in a row. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Like you said, younger guys. It's tough to figure out how that consistency is because this is their first full year. Even their second full year is tough to gauge too because I think the key is when you got these guys is first year you bring them on, you usually start them the second half with those innings that they got from minor league. You're around 150 total, right? Then the year after that you get to 175, and then the year after that is when you get to that 180 200 realm, and then the training wheels come off. So even next year, you still want to continue to monitor these guys because that's, they're going to be increasing for the next 2 years innings, and that's going to dictate, I think, how they're going to play and pitch. So, and that's why to kind of bring it full circle with the Miz is you think about it. So I said, year 3 is usually when you take the training wheels off and get it to about 200 innings. The Miz is going to be at 200 innings in the first year. So there's some hesitation there, maybe going forward in drafts, I'm not to say I would never draft him. I'm just saying that does leave the door open for injury or something. Like, I don't know. I feel like, the old school way of like slowly creeping up the innings. I love that mentality. And now I feel like lately it's just year after year, it's kind of gone out the window where let's just go throw these guys out there and just let them rip until their arm falls off almost. It's like Dusty Baker's back coaching every single team.
Oh man, vintage. I mean, yeah, I think you're right on that. And I think when you go into draft and draft strategies too, I do think you have to look for guys that are trying to peak almost, like they're trying to like their first year break it out. Like he's been really good this year, but not like, top 5, but Gavin Williams. Gavin Williams is very much so fantasy relevant, and he has real good upside, high upside, 7, 8 innings, 10, 11, 12 strikeouts sometimes, like very, very good pitcher, but doesn't crush it every single week. He was on our honorable mentions this week with who's not, right? So like it's there, but I think that's kind of the strategy people have to go in with. I really do. I think we saw it this year with Skeens. We saw it with Scooble. We saw it with Crochet. Those are the top 3 guys last year. And then this year it went backwards. So, just like because, like you said, Miz has been great this year doesn't mean he might not be not next year.
Right. I mean, who would have thought Skeens would fall the way he fell, right? I feel like this year to me, there's been more injury for first round picks. Like I've never seen, like Crochet's out for let's just call it. He's out for pretty much a year. He's not coming back, and if he does, he's only going to pitch in like as a relief spot, right? Paul Skeens is just like horrible. Scooble had that injury; he was out for a month and a half. Soto was out. Judge was out. I mean, man, you could even talk about like Ohtani, like he's not pitching anymore because he was hurt, right? And even his hitting, he went through a really rough patch with the hitting because he was pitching. So, yeah, I mean, this year, I can't remember the last time you had these top picks just like either hurt, like pretty much hurt, and even like a Kyle Tucker who went in the second round. I mean, him, you just hate to see it. Hate to see it.
Shell of himself. I don't know what happened. I feel bad. He's great. I think he's a terrific person. But man, just on the field, something's going on, mentally, and I just hope he gets right. But yeah, you're absolutely right. These first rounders this year, just absolutely nuts. Just going a different direction this year. So I don't know. It's going to be tough next year, really evaluating that first round because some of these guys, they're going to take a step back. I think in these drafts, even J-Ram, like you said, it's like J-Ram, man, like not the same guy, that we see year in year out. Judge, Soto, all these guys got hurt this year. It's even Bobby Witt was hurt for a little period of time too. Like no one's safe. No one's safe. That's why you got to strategize your whole entire draft. It's a lot of rounds. It can take a lot of time depending on your league, but it's so important to have depth and just just an idea of what you want to have on your team and just making sure it's healthy. It's because it happens to the best.
Right. And what better way to find out and make sure who's healthy than to check us out Monday morning on your way to work at 8 a.m. on YouTube, FSAN, Bourbon N Ball channel, all that good stuff. So what we like to do is with playoffs, most 12-team playoffs start next week. Some start the week after just because they play the last week of the season. We like to end it a week earlier. So we are starting ours for our Bourbon League is going to start next week, and then our other league starts the week after. So we're pedal to the metal, man. Like this is it. This is what these long 20+ weeks of watching baseball is all about. This is it right here in a month.
Are you ready for the playoffs?
Oh, I am. You know what's crazy is in our other league, I have Soto's coming back. Kento Marte's coming back. Man, talk about the right time. Right time. I am a little more confident now than I was a week ago with those guys coming back. And then with Sale pitching, I'm pretty good there. The Bourbon League, I'm just streaming pitchers at this point. Like Zebby Matthews, like I put him in. I saw the A's. I was like, it's a matchup he should probably dominate. And he did. So I am streaming. But like I said, I do. Soto's coming back. I could throw him in. Yandy Diaz looks good. I feel good. Steven Kwan's back. He's hitting almost 280 after hitting under 100, 200, excuse me, for the first 2.5 months of the year. Now he's at almost 280. What a turnaround. J-Ram, he's the only guy that I really want to pick it up. And if you can, I feel good. I feel good. What about you?
I feel pretty good. I like the team. It's great. So far, so good. Sale, right? It just that was nice this week to see that going into it. Man, it's gonna be tough. It's fun. I'm excited. I'm just glad, first step is making the playoffs. That's always the first step.
Whole new game when you're in.
And then after that, it's game on. And the nice thing too, which I like, is the competitive. It's no buy. We're right into it, And
Yep.
It's best man win. And I think there's a lot of good teams in this league too. There's a lot of good teams. I mean, got to talk about Adam for a second. I mean, I feel like the amount of points that he's scored in that league is it's crazy.
Hey, Adam had a great record last year, and he was one and done. That's it. I want to say, I mean, want to talk about one of the biggest turnarounds as opposed to last year, Dwayne.
Dude, Dwayne's in the chat.
Yeah. Biggest, I think one of the bigger turnarounds. I remember last year his team wasn't very good, I'm not gonna lie, but turned it around, made the playoffs. Once you're in, whole new ball game. Good luck. Good luck to everybody. I mean, hey, let's see if someone can take the champ down.
Man, that's right. We'll see.
I'm back in. Even after the injuries, I'm still in.
Still in it. It's fun. I mean, I got to shout out Luis Arias for really anchoring my DH role this year. And I mean, who else do I got? I mean, geez. I mean, I did a nice trade with Webb. I traded Webb for Liam Hicks and Brandon Lowe. I needed some depth, but really I wanted Liam Hicks. And yeah, it's kind of paid off a little bit. Logan Webb was just not cutting it. I just didn't know what he was going to do every week.
Yeah,
but I love it though. I just love the commodity. It's a good league. It's all about the fun.
It is, but unfortunately, there's got to be a winner. So
only one.
Whew, man, it's going to be exciting. And I think the biggest mistake with some of these is I've noticed is like some people stack up 2-star pitchers, but not good 2-star pitchers, and that can kill you. So I love the strategy. I can't wait to see what people are going to do. I mean, I do stack up 2-star pitchers, but I try to make them more matchup friendly than usual. So, like I said, Zebby Matthews against the A's, to me, that was like, come on, it's the A's. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be fun to see what happens.
So I think we're all set. I think we got 8 teams in the playoffs already. I think it's pretty much set in stone. And I mean, let's see. Where are you, Doug? Oh, are you going to be playing? Ooh, you might be playing Bradley.
I know.
Wow. That's going to be I think that's going to be must-watch TV this week.
I know. Ooh. The champ playing could be maybe the new champ.
Could be.
I think I got to take him out. I got to take
Cam. I was looking at De La Cruz control. Cam's got a good team. He's got Otto Lopez. I think he's got the fantasy god, Alec Burleson. He's been so good this year.
Yeah.
I think he might be breakout player of the year.
Yeah. I mean, there's some. I mean, like I always say, man, you really make your team on the last, in the teens for drafts. I think that's when your team really comes together. Like Burleson, like a lot of those guys go a lot later, and those are the guys that really can make your team. Is those value picks, and if you hit them, yeah, that's great. So
man, that's good stuff.
But like I said, it's playoffs. It's a whole new game. One and done. That's it, man. That is it. You're out. That's it. I mean, what can you say? It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun. Soto's back. I'm back. I'm happy. Let's go.
I can't believe it. Can't believe we're already to this point.
So, all right. For Mikey V, I'm Doug. This is Bourbon and Ball. Catch us Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be breaking down the lineups, the pitching matchups for this upcoming week. Something fun to look at, something fun to listen to. If you need some depth, we always throw on some streamers for hitting and pitching. And I actually do pick up a lot of those pitchers I do put on the show. So I do drink what I make, if that makes any sense. But, yeah, check us out. Again, we'll be back here live, bringing you the hottest players, some overperformers as well. Yeah, join us. Have a good time. We'll see you guys next week live, all right? Good luck this week for your playoffs if they do start.